Hey everybody, Socket Wrench here. Um, Feeling kind of like absolute crap today. My body is not in homeostasis and doing everything in its power to work against me in getting things accomplished that I need to outside and more specifically actually at work. The last 3 days have kind of sucked. Feel like I've got an invisible elephant sitting on my chest. Uh, so I'm getting kind of winded pretty easy if I go even just trying to hike around the property a little bit. So, but it's just driving me insane not being able to do anything. So I figured, hey, you know what? If I can't do stuff outside or go anywhere, I'm gonna bring something inside and work on it. 'Cause I can't. I'm built to not sit idle, and this is driving me absolutely crazy. So today I am going to dissect the motor from the Savage and confirm or deny my suspicions that it has just eaten yet another piston from leaning out at basically at red line. And I've got it pretty dang close, and it even still, it doesn't really know it's got a problem other than you can hear the slap coming from the top end of the motor. Unless you got a load on it and you're pretty good RPM, but it still doesn't like um, just full blast in fifth gear, running it to red line for any period of time at all. Um, so I think I've got that figured out to cool it down from what it's been doing. Is I've drastically increased the compression on this engine with what I've done to it, and just fine tuning the carburetor and the fuel and spark and all the little things that contribute to adding heat to metal over time and then causing heat soak and bad things to happen. Like the piston is aluminum in a cast iron sleeve, and it starts to expand to the point where that metal starts just smearing up against the sleeve of the cylinder. And then you have a little problem of that aluminum that had just smeared locking your compression rings inside the ring grooves, and they can't expand and lock back to the cylinder, and then your piston is just slapping back up and forth and down and making all kinds of racket. You lose compression, start burning a bunch of oil. It is not a fun situation. But I've pushed this bike and ran it 2,000 miles with the piston just slapping. And it hasn't burned a whole lot of oil here in the last 1,500. It kind of sealed itself back up a little bit. The rings might have actually released and gone a good way to seal it back up. Just on their own from running it and that metal wearing back down and whatnot. I'm not worried about the sleeve, the cylinder itself having a problem, as it is literally diamond coated. It has a industrial silicate carbide, basically indifferentiable between naturally occurring diamonds and something false, other than there's no impurities in the material itself. So all right, this stuff is pressed into the contacting wall, the inside diameter of the cylinder. And the theory behind that is to reduce friction, increase thermal resistance, and obviously increase the longevity of the cylinder sleeve itself. So the material that gets eaten obviously is going to be the weaker material, and that would be the aluminum that doesn't have any kind of coating on it at all. And we just hope that the rocking and pitching back and forth of the piston as it's going up and down in that bore hasn't caused the rings themselves, which are also a harder material, from causing extra wear, bowing, or causing any TIR problems in the bore that I'll have to address, because I kind of don't want to go any bigger than what I've already gone. I've already had real big problems with going bigger. Go big or go home doesn't exactly work with this motor for what I want to do with it. I want to be able to kind of take it up to a little bit higher RPM for mild sustained bursts. I don't want to go balls to the walls for 100 miles, but being able to not die and get run over on the highway if I need to go to Atlanta on it would be helpful. So anyway, what we're going to do today is a step-by-step dissection of the Suzuki LS650 single engine. And this one is, again, it's highly modified. It is now a 666cc high compression super thumper. In stock, that motor put down between 27 and 31, 32 horsepower. And at this point, that motor is pushing 42, 43 horsepower. And I've chopped off a whole bunch of weight on the bike. The bike only weighs about 275 pounds, and I weigh 165 soaking wet. So power to weight ratio is pretty significant on this little machine. It's very fun. It gets to its top end just lightning fast. And it's actually competitive with my katana. Just it really surprised me. But anyway, let's get to it. So before I take this thing inside, it is kind of nasty. Just a few thousand miles of road grime. Actually, see, this one ate the piston after a full 3,000 miles. And then, like I said, I put at least another 2,000 miles on it. So probably 5,000 miles of road grime. It just hasn't been cleaned. But the major point of why I'm going to clean it up is to find where it's leaking, because it got all new seals when I built it last time, and I want to kind of pinpoint where it's leaking from so I can focus a little more intently on that spot when I put it back together this time, to ensure it don't leak again. So I use just hot water and Dawn dish soap in a pressure squirter doohickey here, and just give it a nice squirt down all the way around. Let it sit and soak for a little while, and then hit it with regular old warm water to flush the little bits that are clinging to the motor off, and that'll be that. And then I can watch it, see where it's dripping from, and then go ahead and drain the oil and take it inside. Alright, got her all soaped up, blasted off with that hot soapy water, got most of the big chunks off. Now we'll just let the soap sit there and do its thing for a little while, let it warm up a little bit. It's still about 30 degrees out here. And we'll blast it off with some clean hot water and then tote it in the house. Alright, giving this thing enough time for the soap bubbles to do their thing. Then we're going to rinse it off. Let it dry a little bit. Check and make sure where that little oil leak's coming from. Drain the oil, then take it inside. I'm using the same pump up squirt bottle that I used to put the soapy water on it to rinse it off with. And obviously I'm not trying to get the thing spotless. Just the majority of the fairly loose grime and dirt and funk and whatnot. Pumpy. I think right there is where my leak is for my shift shaft seal. that's pretty much that. Let it dry off a little bit, come out and drain the oil. Alright, so I got her all washed off, got the oil drained, and got the motor moved inside. But just wanted to catch on film what I pulled out. Look at that oil. That oil's got like 1,000 miles on it since I did the last oil change. And it's like I just changed the damn oil in my diesel. Look at that. The staining is just so black. It's like a midnight on a moonless night. That is dark. But it still feels pretty good. Plenty of slicky left in it. Don't feel a whole bunch of grit. That's just from blow-by gases escaping past the rings and then obviously contaminating the oil. So yeah, it's going to get some fresh oil, filter, and all that fun stuff when we put it back together. Not that anyone would ever use the oil that they took out of a motor that's just getting rebuilt, but there we go. That's what came out of it. What do you think, Capone? You're gonna take a motor apart? Yeah. Kitty wants to come help. Alright, so got the motor blasted off, all the main big chunks and whatnot. I got the oil drained out, got it moved inside in the living room on the carpet. Naturally, where you tear apart an engine. Basic toolkit laid out. Box to stick parts in. I'm working on it on the motorcycle ATV stand. It just kind of fits right in there, and I can manipulate it as I need to get in the position I need to get it into when I need to get it into to access whatever I got to access. And for tonight, I think I'm just going to focus on tearing the top end down and then make a judgment call as to if I need to go any deeper and tear into the bottom end or not. This motor's only got 9,200 miles on it total, its whole life. And I don't know, 5,000 of those miles are on this build with this piston and everything else that's been done here. But nothing has needed to be done so far to the bottom end, as long as it doesn't have any fore and aft travel, too much play, nothing's floppy. I don't feel any bearings that are all wonky. We'll go ahead and leave the bottom end alone. And once again, just do a top end rebuild. But first thing is, look at all that soot on that outside edge of that freaking crush washer. Sucker was leaking, and my bottom stud was just missing. Not broken off in there, nothing, is just gone. So a whole lot of my noise could be from right there, and this might not be as bad as I'm expecting it to be, but we shall see. You know, at one point I had lost compression to the point where it was only pushing 105 psi. It was still running, and then again it must have freed the rings back loose or something, because it built compression back up. And even though it was smoking a little bit, this motor didn't know there was anything wrong with it. Just, I mean, that actually, for 40s technology, these are pretty robust little motors. You don't abuse them too bad. Don't lug them real hard, low RPM. Don't wring their necks and run them to red line until they burn up. That's really it. Don't let them run out of oil. And they're freaking bulletproof. But anyway, let's start tearing into this thing. pull the valve cover off first. Pulling my valve inspection covers off. You don't got to worry about which side goes where, because they go either direction, same part number otherwise. It has been a little while. I don't feel like going up to the garage to grab my manual. But there were a couple of these fasteners that you're supposed to leave alone. I want to say the one with the Allen head, and maybe this guy too. I can't remember for sure. Let me grab my light. That guy, maybe. I can't remember for sure. It's been a little while. Let's see. So that guy's got to come loose. I think that guy's got to come loose. We'll start with this guy. Pull that one just in case. I don't think. Alright, so that one is not going all the way down into the head. Just leave that one alone. Finger tight there. But that one, if I remember right, for sure we leave him alone. And let's see, we got to pull this guy. So that's right, you do have to take the valve inspection covers off anyway to get to these. I'm not missing any fasteners. That guy. Okay, busted loose. We got to pull it the rest of the way out. But that appears to be it. And that one is loose, but that one's busted off. So I have an extraction to do. Alright. Separation is on the top. Let it go. Nothing else holding you in. You should be coming off of there. Points over here. They seem like they might be a little robust. Some wider prying agents. That sealant does not want to let go. There we go. All right. Alright, look like the rocker pads are in good shape. The bores where the cam rides are nice and smooth, no grooving. They look really good. Cam looks really good. Good deal. Flex washers even look good. Valve contact pads look good. Alright. I was kind of worried about the cam too, so good deal. looks like we have a valve seal that has popped out of its place there on the exhaust side, and that would sure enough cause it to spit some smoke out. And it's just on that guy. And both of the intakes are still seated. Alright, so on this build we're going to have to pull the valves and everything so that we can address that and keep that from leaking in the future. Alright, chain looks good, nice and tight. Again, it's only got 9,100 miles on it, so there's no reason for this cam chain to be worn and loose. Guide looks good. That guide looks good. I'll get some more footage of this close up with my phone, because this camera's kind of not so great. Alright, well, wonderful. Again, this is just a nice cleaner shot of what we got going on in here. Nice clean cam lobes. And that's just a little bit of wear in scoring. More discoloration than even scoring. Nice and smooth, no edge. And I do know somebody that I might be able to convince to take this to work with them and give me a surface finish reading across those surfaces, just because I'm an anal bastard. And if they don't meet my specifications, they are going to get polished. Right there, I'm a little concerned about that surface. A little light polishing, I think it'll be okay. Yeah, I'm very pleased with how that cam looks. And I'm thinking I might actually send this guy to somebody that will go ahead and modify it and go ahead and put a stage 3 cam to match everything else that I've done to this motor, and that will put it probably 45 to 47 horsepower, which is pretty much this machine's max, unless you go really crazy with it and turbo it or supercharge it. But you can't even do that with this high compression ratio configuration, because once you start adding boost with this much compression, it's a bomb, a heat bomb. Yeah, it looks really good in here for as rough as I've been on it for the last couple thousand miles. And the oil return galley, pretty clean. But see if you can see that in there. That there, you can see it kind of cocked off of its perpendicular axis on that valve guide. A little spring around the top there. That valve seal's popped up. So that's where quite a bit of my smoke has been coming from. Alright, well, we'll start tearing the rest of it down. Alright, once again, the bolts that you need to remove to take the valve cover off. And if you're looking at the top of the valve cover, that is the left side of the bike, that is the right side of the bike. Now the only ones that you don't need to screw with is that one right there with the little Phillips head star imprint in it. Leave that one alone. And that little guy right there. You don't have to mess with that little guy either. And that's the little guy that holds in your decompression solenoid pivot. But all the rest of them need to come loose, including the two inside underneath your valve inspection covers. And then once you get all those guys loose, just be patient, don't force it, go all the way around the first fin, between the first fin and the second fin. Use something wide if you can, kind of flat, and gently pry, just really gently. And put a little bit of pressure between those two top fins, and just walk your way around, and eventually that sealant will pop loose. The sealant that I use for pretty much all motorcycle work is going to be the Yamabond. I've had the best luck with it, and even this one, it didn't leak a drop, and it took quite a bit to get it to pop loose, which is what I prefer. I'd rather them hang on pretty tight than fail and have to do the work again. So spend a little extra, get the Yamabond, and it's never done me wrong, so hopefully it'll do you right too. From this point on, I'm going to have to pull the right side engine cover so that I can remove the timing chain tensioner to release the tension and give me some slack on the timing chain, so that I can pull the cam gear off, and then in turn that frees up the cam. I can remove it, and then the head can come off. It is a process, and it's really simple once you learn the process. But if you haven't done this before, get a manual. They're cheap, versus breaking something. I recommend the Climber. It's like 30 bucks, and it's got everything you need to know about this motor, step by step, how to take it apart, put it back together, plus anything else you need to know on the bike. That includes the transmission that's self-contained inside this engine case. The top end, the bottom end, the electronics, the frame, bearings, everything you need to know about your Suzuki Savage. The Climber manual handles. It's a very in-depth service manual. So that is absolutely the one I recommend. Well, we'll go ahead and get this cover off and let y'all see what the inner workings of this heart look like. Alright, these cover fasteners are 8mm. I don't worry about a pattern when I'm pulling them loose. I'm just going to give it new gaskets anyway. They're not on there real tight. You don't got to worry about it warping or any of that fun stuff with this particular cover. This will have a tendency to make a mess, so be prepared for that. Cardboard to catch it or something. I've got this sitting on one of the lock together little rubber mats that you can kind of make your own little shop floor with. They come in handy for all the different stuff that I work on. All the different places that I work on it. I can just make my own shop floor right on top of gravel or mud or dirt or the leaves or whatever. This one might need a little bit of coaxing to come loose, because the gasket that I used was a paper type gasket that had some, like a little bead of sealant on both sides of the gasket. So it might be a little sticky. We'll see. Alright, if you're not comfortable remembering where these bolts go, because some of them will be a little longer and shorter, particularly on the other cover, go ahead and get you a piece of cardboard or styrofoam or just something that you can draw a little pattern of the ring that those bolts make, and then pull them out one at a time and push them in to that pattern in the place that they go on that cover, so you don't forget where they go and end up getting yourself into a bind, putting too long of a bolt into too short of a hole and cracking your case, or any of that fun stuff. So just a quick tip there for that. Let's see if I can get this to pop loose with the clutch. Yes. Inside, clutch actuator rod, or lever, I'm sorry, that's the rod. Looks good, nice and clean, no scoring or chips or chunks or glitter. That looks really good. And I just turn it over, leave all my bolts in place, set it down and move on. But there we are. There is the clutch and the starter gear, sprag gear, or power distribution gear. And this is what gets your power from the crankshaft to the clutch and the transmission. And this is your cam chain tensioner. And this is stock. It has not been modified. Again, this motor's only got 9,100 miles on it, so it doesn't need the modified or the Versalagin or any of that other crazy Swedish stuff those guys come up with at this point. I may go ahead and modify it while it's apart, just so that when the time comes, it's already done, and I just gotta move the adjustment and it's done. But typically that doesn't become an issue until like 30,000 miles, around there. But anyway, that's kind of what the guts of it look like on this side. And we'll go ahead and pull the tensioner loose so we can get our cam out of there. And that is a 10 mil. Alright, tensioner is loose. I'm going to get the plunger out, and we've got to get this little C-clip off to get the whole tensioner loose, but I'm not really worried about that right now. I just needed to take the tension off of it so we can manipulate the cam. And now we have access to it. We can remove it. We've got slack. Alright, once you got your bolts loose and your locker washer guy out of the way, cam gear will slide up over off of the cam, and you can start working your cam loose. There we go. That is loose. And our cam is out. And you've got an alignment pin on your cam, so it can only go into the cam gear one way. Set that guy aside. And cam gear is out of the timing chain. Now, normally one would grab a hold of this thing with like a clothes hanger or something, or a piece of wire, and pull it over this way. But I'm pulling this whole thing down. I'm not really worried about it. I'm going to go ahead and drop it down into the case and catch it here. And let it bunch up, and bang, there we are. And at this point, I can pull the head stud nuts loose, and the head can come off. Alright, these are 14 millimeters. I just use a shorty 3/8 drive with a little extension. And I will pull these loose in a crisscross pattern. So I'll pull this one, then that one, and then that one, and then that one down there. And I'll just kind of bump it. Alright, and I'll pull it all the way loose. I just get it so where it's broke free a little bit. About 1/2 to 3/4 of a turn. Alright, now they're all loose. Go back to the first one and can pull them all the way out at this point. I think since this is going to be the 4th rebuild on this motor, I'm going to go ahead and replace probably the nuts and the studs, just because trying to get all your washers while you're pulling the nuts off. Now the one down in the pit is a little harder to get to, so I just leave that one, and then once I get the head off, I tilt it to the side and just let it slide out into my hand, hopefully, if it stays in place. Now that one actually came off with the nut. Sometimes you get lucky and that happens. Did not get lucky with that one. Now, all the exposed nuts were pretty rusty, so if I can get my finger, it's pretty stuck on there. I'm gonna have to probably take it off. Let's see, that guy right there also needs to come off. And that is a 10 millimeter, and that is the bolt that holds your chain guide on the back side of the motor. Again, this is the one that the cam chain tensioner attaches to. So without that guy loose, it's going to catch down here at the bottom of the case. So we're going to pull that guy loose, and then we can go ahead and stick the bolt back in its hole so we don't lose it anywhere. And just be sure not to forget about it, because we need to check and make sure that its little O-ring seal isn't jacked up. Again, this motor is getting all new seals. Alright, now the head should come off. Come over there. I don't think there was anything else holding it on there. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, there is. There's that guy. And was there one on the back side too? Yeah, don't forget about those. And those are, what size are those guys? $12mm open end. Get you access. You don't really have room behind the nut to get the box end on it, and unless you have, well, you don't even really have room to get any kind of socket on it. So even if you had a tight spaces ratchet, you're still stuck basically with an open end 12mm for these two. And once you get these guys off, then the head will come off. All right. Alrighty. And that is the head. Get some cleaner shots with the other camera. But our head gasket held. And we weren't leaking anywhere else from the head gasket. On the compression side or the oil side, it was intact. Does not look like we're having any valve overheating problems, which is good. Again, the valves are going to handle a whole lot more heat than that aluminum piston is. Alright. Now we got, I'm missing one, so we got 3 more little nuts, or we just got the ones on that side. Alright, just got the one little guy over there, and the cylinder can come out. Might come out with, no, just leave it. Now that stays. No, it doesn't. That needs to come out. supposed to come out. Alright. Why don't you want to come out of there? Pull this gasket off. You're not supposed to be catching on anything. You're supposed to come on out of there. Alright. About you. There we go. A little bit of scuffing right here, catching on something, but that's already way up in the top of the case, almost up into the cylinder. Interesting. It doesn't feel too brittle, it still flexes a little bit. Clean that up. It should be fine to reuse. And that guy should just slip down. Alright, now I need a 10. I don't know if I can get a socket on there or not. If I need to go find my 10, I need to go find my 10. Alright, found my 10 mil. So except for the 4 head studs, these 2 little guys are the only thing that holds the cylinder onto the block. And it was missing one of them. Lost on the road somewhere. We will make sure that don't happen in the future with green or blue Loctite. Alright. Nice and loosey-goosey. Now we just lift the cylinder straight up off the block and the piston will slide right out of it. Just like that. Look in the bore. We've got some marks there, but they're just marks. I think that's just aluminum smeared on the bore. Same on this side. A little bit of aluminum stuck on it. No grooving. Yay for diamond coating. Alright. Good deal. Yep, exactly what I thought. And obviously that is not a stock piston, but sure enough, source of all that floppy noise. Bottom compression ring is kind of tight in its groove. Top compression ring is kind of tight in places in its groove, which will definitely cause some problems. We got a little bit of metal smearage right there. The other side here. Woo! Pretty good scoring and gouging on this side. And got the same thing going on the webbing in between the piston grooves there. That'll sure cause that thing to be flopping back and forth like that while it's going up and down. And it looks like it really does not like burning oil with that high octane gas. But other than that, the piston doesn't look too bad shape. For 5,000 miles, still nice and free on the wrist pin. No binding there, so it's getting old from underneath. It's staying cool. We just got a little hot on the skirts. And if that's all the damage that we got here, I think I've pretty much got this thing dialed in. I need to give it a little bit more fuel up around red line, and this problem is solved. And then again, where I'm at now, top end runs at red line in 5th gear just are not going to happen. Up here in the mountains, I don't really get faster than 60 cruising, and if I'm really playing hard, I might see bursts of 80 and on, up on the mountain or playing in the canyons or something here and there, but for a couple of seconds at the most before I hit the next 90-degree turn or switchback or loop-de-loop or all the fun stuff that we have up here in the mountains. Nice shiny clean transmission. Well, so there we have it. Suspicion confirmed. You get a new piston and set of seals ordered, and the rest of what this bike needed was a rear tire, and the forks need to be rebuilt and fresh oil put in them. I've already got a set of seals. I just need to get some oil and clean this thing up a little bit, and as soon as the parts come in, I can slam it back together. I might make a couple more little modifications. But that's pretty much it. That's how you take the top end apart on the S40 or Suzuki Savage or LS650, whatever you want to call it. And again, this is a 666 with its current bore and stroke configuration. I'm not going to tell you what the compression ratio is on this motor. There are some other little modifications that I did not show you and I will not show you. But yeah, this is what a Super Thumper looks like. Pretty much the same as stock, except obviously that piston is a whole lot shorter, a little bit bigger, beefier. This is forged. But there we go. I hope this helped. I'll do another video of it going back together. And if we need to, if the other magic that I'm about to perform on the bottom end doesn't check out and I have to tear the cases apart to go into the internals, and I'll do an internals video, because I have not seen one of those floating around that is comprehensive and explanatory. So we may do that if it comes to it. Hopefully it won't. So far I think everything on the bottom end is fine. So we'll see. But anyway, thank you all for watching the teardown video. Let me know in the comments if there's anything that I missed, or you need some help with something, or you want me to go more in depth, or if you got a question, or what have you. Let me know. And if this was helpful, please, like my video and subscribe. I'm trying to grow my channel, and every subscriber helps, especially for people that like and share. It helps with the algorithm and all that fun stuff that I'm getting to learn about now. So, but thank y'all for watching. Rubber side down.